Hello Year 12 and welcome to Act 1 Scene 5. So this is the ghost scene with Hamlet. So we start with Hamlet and the ghost entering, and Hamlet then stops and says, "Where are you taking me? Speak, I'm not going any further." The ghost then says, "Mark me." So he's establishing his authority at the very start of the scene, and Hamlet acquiesces to that request by saying, "I will." My hour is almost come when I, sulphurous and tormenting flames, must render myself up. So that is a reference to purgatory, which Elizabethan people would have been fairly familiar with. Hamlet says, "Poor ghost," and the ghost says, "Don't worry about pitying me, but listen to what I want to tell you." And Hamlet says, "I'll listen." The ghost then says, "So art thou to revenge when thou shalt hear." The ghost is saying to Hamlet, when you hear what I have to say, you're going to want to take revenge for it. The ghost then explains to Hamlet that this is the spirit of your father. So this confirms what everyone's been suspecting so far. And he's saying that he's doomed to walk the night and be confined to the fires during the daylight. For foul crimes done in my days of nature are burnt and purged away. So again, this is another reference to purgatory, and this lends itself to the idea that this is a genuine ghost who has not had time to make amends for the sin of his life before he has died. And where it says foul crimes, that just means like normal everyday sins. And then he's saying, "I can't really tell you about, my purgatory now, but I can tell you a tale that is going to really frighten you." And then we have this list of descriptions here, which is basically saying, "I'm really, really, really going to scare you." So he's saying, "Would harrow up thy soul, freeze thy young blood, make thy two eyes start from their spheres." So he's saying it's going to make your eyes pop out of your head. "Thy knotted and combined locks to part, and each hair to stand on end." So his hair's going to stand on end there, like quills on a fearful porcupine. So we've got simile. And then he's saying, "But this eternal blazon must not be to ears of flesh and blood. Listen, listen, oh listen, if thou didst ever love thy dear father." So he's saying, even though it's really, really scary and you're not going to like what you're going to hear, please listen to me. Hamlet responds with a very simple exclamation of, "Oh God," which is similar to the explanations from his earlier soliloquy. The ghost then gives us the topic of his speech. So he said, "Revenge his foul and most unnatural murder." So we have the idea of murder coming out here when Hamlet repeats the word murder, and it's then repeated in the following line as well. And it says, "Murder most foul is in the best it is, but this most foul, strange, and not natural." So again, we have this listing strategy going on from the ghost. Hamlet then responds with, "Haste me to know it, that I with wings as swift as meditation or the thoughts of love may sweep to my revenge." So it seems quite a measured way of saying that he is feeling quite eager to know what is happening. So it's an intense response, but it's also a measured one. The ghost then moves on to the subject of what he's actually going to speak about, and he says, "'Tis given out that sleeping in my orchard a serpent stung me, so the whole ear of Denmark is by a forged process of my death rankly abused." So he's saying everyone thinks that I have been killed by a serpent that bit me on the ear. However, that's not true. It's just a rumour that has been circulated, we assume, by Claudius. So we know "'tis given out" means he's saying it, and then we again have this language here of rank, which we have seen in earlier scenes already. So rottenness, rankness, something's not right here. And then the serpent that did sting thy father's life now wears his crown. So he's saying quite clearly there, the person who's now wearing the crown, Claudius, is the one that actually killed me. Okay, and then Hamlet responds with, "Oh, my prophetic soul, my uncle." Oh, my prophetic soul. So he's saying, this is what I suspected all along. He then seeks further clarity by saying, "my uncle." And the ghost is happy to elaborate because if you haven't figured it out by now, this ghost really, really likes to talk. The ghost explains in further detail the experience of betrayal that he's had. So he's saying that incestuous and adulterate beast, he's talking about Claudius here. It could possibly fit with the satire description that we saw earlier in the play. And then he's basically saying he's a really clever and witty man, and he's managed to seduce my wife. And he says specifically, the will of my most seeming virtuous wife. So we either think, okay, well, she seemed virtuous because she's got married so soon after Claudius's death, or we think maybe there are hints here that Gertrude wasn't faithful to the king when the king was actually still alive. But again, just hints, we're not entirely sure. And then he goes on to say, "Oh, Hamlet, what falling off was there from me, whose love was of that dignity that it went hand in hand even with the vow I made her in marriage, and to decline upon a poor wretch whose natural gifts were poor to those of mine." So he's basically saying, my brother's a real step down from me. But virtue, as it will never be moved, though lewdness in court in a shape of heaven. So again, we have the idea of being a shape, the imagery of clothing that we've noticed earlier in the play. So lust, though to a radiant angel linked, will sate itself in a celestial bed and prey on garbage. So essentially he's talking about the marriage there between Claudius and Gertrude. But soft, methinks I sent the morning air, brief let me be. Ironic considering the rest of the speech. And then he says, sleeping within my orchard, my custom always in the afternoon. So he's saying, I usually go for a sleep in my orchard in the afternoon. Upon my secure hour, thy uncle stole. So while I was asleep, your uncle has snuck in. And then with juice cursed of Hebona in a vial, so he's saying with poison, and in the porches of my ear did pour the leprous distilment, who holds such enmity with blood of man that swift as quicksilver it courses through the body. So he's saying, your uncle poured poison in my ear, and that is what killed me, and obviously it was a very sudden death. So he's saying that basically he then describes the whole death thing and what it does to your body when you die of that poison. And then he goes to summarize by saying, thus I was sleeping by a brother's hand, of life, of crown, of queen, at once dispatched, cut off even in the blooms of my sin. So this is the reference that we need to confirm that this ghost is saying, I am a genuine ghost. I'm appearing as who I really am, but I didn't get a chance to repent before I was killed. So that is why I'm doomed to wander the earth at this point. And so he's unhoused, disappointed, unannulled, no reckoning made. So again, this is a reference to not having made repentance, but sent to my account with all my imperfections on my head. O horrible, horrible, most horrible, so we have repetition again. If thou hast nature in thee, bear it not. Let not the royal bed of Denmark be a couch for luxury and damned incest. So this is the command that we get from the ghost to Hamlet. So he's asking Hamlet to actually do something about the marriage between Claudius and Gertrude at this point. However, he then puts another command on Hamlet on how he is supposed to go about this. But howsoever thou pursues this act, taint not thy mind, which fits in with our imagery of madness that we have running throughout the play, especially from this scene onwards, nor let thy soul contrive against thy mother aught. So he's saying, whatever you do, don't harm your mother. Instead, leave her to heaven and to those thorns that in her bosom lodge to prick and sting her. So saying she will be punished for her crimes. Leave her to her own conscience to basically torment her throughout the rest of her life. Then he's saying, fare thee well at once, the glowworm shows me the matin be near, and gins and pale ineffectual fire. So he's saying, it's the morning time, I gotta go, and he leaves. Hamlet then has his explanations in response to what the ghost has said. He says, O all you host of heaven, O earth, what else? And shall I couple hell, O fire, hold my heart, and you, my sinews, grow not instant old, but bear me up stiffly. So he's saying, I'm so shaken by what I've just heard, I'm so frightened by the whole thing, that I'm going to collapse. We then have this repeated phrase from the end of the ghost. The ghost said, remember me, and Hamlet responds with, remember thee. I, poor ghost, whilst memory holds a seat in this distracted globe. So distracted globe means he's not talking just about his own personal concerns here. He's actually talking about the things that are wrong in this world. And then he says, remember thee again. Yea, from the table of my memory I'll wipe away all trivial fond records, all stores of books, all forms, all pressure past, that youth and observation copy there, and that commandment all alone shall live within the book and volume of my brain, unmixed with baser matter. So what we have here is quite a similar image to what we get with baptism. So he's saying, I'll wipe away all trivial fond records, so I'll forget everything else, and only thy commandment shall I live by. So what you've asked of me shall become my sole focus, and I will forget everything else. Same idea as what we see with baptism, the putting off of the old self and the putting on of the new self. So Hamlet is establishing for himself a new identity here. Yes, by heaven, O most pernicious woman. So we can see that he's very, very bitter about his mother at this point. He was already embittered, and then his father has come and said, well, hinted at a possible affair with Claudius, and also said that she's married my murderer, basically. That's what the ghost is getting at. And then we have, O villain, smiling damned villain. So that's his frustrations with Claudius there. You can see by the repeated word and the use of the word damned. And then, my tables meet it as I set down, that one may smile and be a villain. So he's saying, again, Claudius appears the innocent ruler. However, he is the villain of this tale. At least I'm sure it may be so in Denmark. So, uncle, there you are. Now to my word, it is adieu, adieu. And again, we have remember me, and he's saying that I have sworn to do my father's bidding. The others then enter looking for Hamlet, so obviously they didn't see where he went off to in the dark, and they've had to come and find him. So his friends, Marcellus and Horatio, ask him what's happened, and Hamlet says, most wonderful, or oh wonderful, and Horatio is saying, well, tell us. And Hamlet says, no, you will reveal it. So this is a continuation of the intrigue and secrecy that we've seen in the previous scene, with Reynaldo being charged with spying on Laertes. So Horatio then says, no, I'm not going to tell. Marcellus says, no, I won't tell either. Hamlet then says, so you're going to keep it a secret? And then Hamlet reveals, once the guys have agreed again, there's never a villain dwelling in Denmark, but he's an arrant knave. So he's basically saying his uncle is worse than just a villain. Horatio is saying, well, we already knew this. Why did we need a ghost to come confirm that? Hamlet then says, yeah, we did know that. And so let's shake hands and part. Let's just go. We all have things to do, and I do too, so I'll go pray. So that's a bit of a facetious line there. He's saying, I'm like a student at my prayers. But really, it's also a bit of dramatic irony, because we know that he actually has urgent business to go and attend to, and a real desire to get on with that as well. And Horatio says, but these are wild and whirling words, my lord. So he's saying, you kind of appear distressed, but I'm not really sure what's going on here, basically. And Hamlet says, I'm sorry they offend you heartily. Yes, Faith, heartily. There's no offence, my lord, replies Horatio. And Hamlet says, yes, by St. Patrick, but there is, Horatio, and much offence too. So he's not referring to his own lines here. He's referring to the offence of Claudius against King Hamlet. Touching this vision here, it is an honest ghost that, let me tell you. So it is an honest ghost. Not sure exactly how Hamlet thinks he's qualified to assess that, but apparently he thinks the ghost is honest at this point. For you desire to know what is between us, overmaster as you may, and now, good friends, as you are friends, scholars, and soldiers, give me one poor request. What is it, my lord? They say, never make known what you have seen tonight. So this is the third time he's asked them to keep a secret, and Marcellus and Bernardo agree, yes, we're not going to say anything. Hamlet then says, swear it. And Horatio says, in faith, my lord, not I. So again, he's asked to keep a secret. So this is going to repeat throughout the rest of the scene. And all the characters keep saying, yes, yes, we'll keep your secret. Hamlet, again, asking, swear upon my sword. And Marcellus is like, I've sworn already. So you can imagine it's probably getting a bit annoying at this point because they know he's found out something from this ghost. They don't know what, and all he spends his time doing is say, promise you'll keep a secret. Promise me you'll keep a secret. And then the ghost cries underneath the stage, swear. So it's like father, like son here. They just keep repeating the same thing. And Hamlet's quite chuffed that the ghost is throwing in his 2 cents worth. And he's saying, come on, you heard the ghost down under us. Consent to swear. So that's in Hamlet's line here. Horatio's then saying, okay, will you tell us what you want us to say? Hamlet then says, never speak of this and what you have seen, swear by my sword. The ghost, again, repeated, swear. And then that Hamlet saying, swear again, and he's describing again how he wants them to swear. The ghost, repeating, swear by his sword. Hamlet then says, well said, old mole, canst thou work in the earth so fast? So basically he's talking about the ghost undermining the besieged city. So he's undermining the kingdom on Denmark at this point by revealing the truth of what has happened. Horatio then says, oh, day and night, but this is wondrous strange. So he's wondering what on earth is going on, basically. And Hamlet then isn't heaps nice to Horatio in this reply. He says, and therefore, as a stranger, give it welcome. So he's saying, welcome the ghost as a stranger coming into your own home. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. So that's a bit of a stinging remark there. He's saying, you don't know everything, Horatio. Just because you do all this philosophy at school doesn't mean that there are things that you don't know about. Well, that's the way I take it anyway. You could read it a different way. But come here as before, never so help you mercy, how strange or odd somever I bear myself, as I perchance hereafter shall think meet to put on an antic disposition. So basically, Hamlet saying, from here on out, I'm going to act if I'm a little bit mad. That you at such times seeing me never shall with arms encumbered thus, or this head shake, or by pronouncing of some doubtful phrase as well, well, well we know, or we could, and if we would, or if we list to speak, or there be, and if they might, or such ambiguous giving out to note that you know aught of me, this do swear, so grace and mercy at most need help you. So Hamlet has said, I'm going to act mad, please, whatever you do, don't reveal it under any circumstances that you know that this is my plot and my madness isn't real. And he's come up with his plan very quickly, so we can see he's already formulating a way that he's able to fulfill the ghost's wishes. Again, this repeated phrase from the ghost, it's like he only knows one word at this point, swear. And Hamlet says, rest, rest, perturbed spirit. So don't worry, ghost. So, gentlemen, with all with all my love, I do commend me to you, and what so poor a man as Hamlet is, may do thee express his love and friending to you. God willing shall not lack. Let us go in together and still your fingers on your lips, I pray. So he's saying, let's go to court together now, but please keep my secret. So that's the, and still your fingers on your lips, I pray. So again, this command to keep a secret. If I was one of Hamlet's friends this stage, especially if I was Horatio, who's meant to be one of Hamlet's trusted companions, I would be getting a little bit sick of being told to keep a secret. It's kind of like, well, why are you doubting me at this point? I've served you well so far. And then he says, the time is out of joint, O cursed spite, that ever I was born to set it right. Nay, come, let's go together. So he's basically saying, I'm the one that must set this kingdom right. It's not about personal ambition. It's not about personal revenge. It's actually about setting the kingdom right, which is why he's actually more willing in this scene to do something, whereas in contrast, at the end of his first soliloquy, he says that he must stay silent. Now that it's not just his own personal offence and concern, Hamlet is willing to do something because he feels that it is his job to set the kingdom of Denmark right. And that brings us to the end of Act 1, Scene 5.